It is a foggy evening across central and eastern Kentucky, but I'm tracking another big band of heavy rain just ahead.
Leaders in a central Kentucky community celebrating the expansion of a historic highway will have the details coming up.
Before he decided to run for president, he was a brain surgeon. Coming up, you'll hear from a Kentucky man who says Ben Carson saved his life.
This is WKYT News at 4:30.
Good afternoon to you. Amber Philpott and Sam Dick reporting. It is a wet start to the work week here in the Bluegrass with more rounds of showers and storms headed our way.
Let's face it, it's a wet mess, isn't it? More soggy days, in fact, on the way. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey, who's busy trying to dry off.
It's been an ugly couple of days, guys. But, of course, we were setting the stage for this last week, talking about all the rain that would be on the way, coming at us in waves. We still got another wave or two of heavy rain to go through later tonight and into the day tomorrow. Right now, the main concern, the dense fog. Look at that Jackson cam, the Lexington cam, and down to Corbin as well. Not as foggy into downtown Frankfort, though we've got some areas where visibilities are way down there. Notice that temperature swing, 48 Frankfort, 56 into Corbin. Well, the milder air is lifting in from north, or from south to north, I should say. Defender radar network, drizzle, mist, will soon give way to an increasing round of rain that is across the western parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. That'll scoot on into central and eastern Kentucky as we go into the middle and latter parts of the evening. So, yes, temperatures are going to climb, but the rain will return in earnest later tonight and tomorrow. We get another wave of low pressure out across the plains to zip through here into the day tomorrow. That will put an end to that temperature spike that we're going to see. It's one of those roller coaster temperature rides over the next 24 hours with a lot of rain. And again, a big temperature drop before tomorrow is through. And I come back in a few minutes. We will focus on not only the rain still to come, but the potential for a few snowflakes before the week is over. That's in the 7-day forecast, guys, just 10 minutes away.
Thank you, Chris. Well, rain or shine, state officials held a ribbon-cutting ceremony today in central Kentucky. They're celebrating the completion of a reconstruction project. US 68 has been widened from 2 to 4 lanes between Paris and Millersburg. WKYT's Mike Byer has more from relieved drivers on this now safer road.
The Highway 68 reconstruction project opened on November 13th, but today, local leaders made it official. State Representative Saney Overly, along with dozens of others, gathered at Millersburg City Hall for a ribbon cutting to celebrate the expansion of the roadway between Paris and Millersburg.
It's very important that we have a modern highway connecting Millersburg, Kentucky to Paris, Kentucky.
Overly says this project will create a better connection between Millersburg and Paris and will help with the growth in these communities.
I'm hearing from constituents who are so relieved that they can finally travel in a safe and comfortable speed.
Highway 68, also known as Maysville Road, is celebrating 180 years since it first opened to traffic in 1835. Local leaders say the expansion to 4 lanes makes the celebration even better. In Bourbon County, Mike Byer, WKYT.
Project engineers say that project cost $26.5 million and that they were able to stay within the budget, which they say is very rare for a road project of this size.
A woman survived after being kidnapped during a bizarre crime spree. Back on Saturday, Louisville police say John McLeany impersonated an officer to pull over a woman who he tied up and sexually abused. Police say he then used the woman's keys to get into a cell phone store where he stole a safe. They say they were able to track him to a home where he barricaded himself in a garage.
They were able to administer gas into the garage and fire a couple less lethal weapons, striking him. Then they were able to take him into custody. There's no doubt in my mind that Mr. McLeany is a violent person. I'm just glad that we were able to do some good police work and get to that house before he had a chance to kill her.
The police chief says McLeany targets Cricket mobile phone stores. He pled guilty to another burglary case last year, and in 1997, he pled no contest to manslaughter in Nebraska.
Many women keep a hair tie on their wrist in case they need it. I am guilty of this. A Louisville woman now says she will be more careful after doctors say a glittery hairband led to a serious infection on her wrist. Christina Mora has her story.
I didn't believe it at first. I thought that it was a spider bite or something else, not from wearing hair ties.
Nearly 2 weeks ago, Audrey Kopp was in the middle of moving into her new home. In the midst of the chaos, she noticed a growing bump on her wrist.
Just kept getting bigger and redder and worse.
Kopp went to her doctor, who gave her antibiotics, but the bump continued to grow, so she went to the ER.
And they said that I needed surgery, and thank God that I caught it in time, or I could have had sepsis.
She had a large abscess on the back of the wrist, so I basically made an incision and drained the pus all the way down to the deeper layers of the skin.
Dr. Amit Gupta says bacteria from Kopp's hair tie likely got under her skin through her pores and hair follicles, causing 3 types of infection.
Be careful. I mean, you can't put all these hair ties around the wrist, particularly, because it can cause problems with the skin. It can cause infection.
Kopp says she won't wear hair ties on her wrist anymore, especially ones that are tough to keep clean. She's thankful her story has a positive outcome.
It could have been a whole different ballgame. Once it gets into your bloodstream, you know, people are known to go into a coma, your body shuts down, so it could have been way worse.
All right, a Senate bill passed earlier this year gives authority to pharmacists to dispense naloxone without a direct prescription from a doctor. Naloxone is a drug that reverses an opioid overdose. The University of Kentucky's College of Pharmacy has been holding training sessions around the state for pharmacists to learn the protocol for that drug and get certifications to dispense the drug. And so far, more than 340 pharmacists have been trained and 132 have received their certification.
Addiction is a chronic disease, and if you believe addiction is a chronic disease, then we have to understand that people with chronic disease relapse.
And tonight on WKYT News at 6, we'll hear from a professor who is working to get a better understanding about why some people become addicted to opioids and others do not. A young Kentucky man says he has his life back and he's thankful to a presidential candidate.
Dr. Ben Carson has been one of the leading GOP candidates in the 2016 race, but Carson is widely known for not being a career politician, instead a former neurosurgeon. A young man from Carter County knows this firsthand because he's one of Dr. Carson's former patients. Caitlin LeBeau has his story.
I had between 6 and 12 a day.
As a child, Tanner Tackett struggled with seizures.
I was watched like a hawk by everybody, by the teachers, parents, neighbors. I was lucky I still got to go to public schools, probably.
He says at just 6 years old, he was diagnosed with epilepsy and taking medicine that didn't seem to be working. But his life changed forever after his doctor referred him to a renowned neurosurgeon.
Carson was the best in the business, and that's who she recommended me to.
He started seeing Dr. Ben Carson, who at the time was working at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore.
He wouldn't treat you like you were any different from all the other patients or anybody else in the hospital. And he could bring a smile to your face.
In 2004, Carson removed Tackett's brain tumor. Finally, the seizure stopped. Tackett says he'd see Carson for checkups over the next several years until Carson retired and decided to run for president.
It kind of blows my mind because I think I know that guy.
Tackett says he supports Carson's run for the White House, not just as a former patient, but as a fan of Carson's politics.
I always joke with people. I tell them that if he actually does win, I'm going to ask him if that gives me free admission to the Oval Office.
And as Carson moves on from a career in medicine, Tackett is just beginning one. He's following in Carson's footsteps and studying to work in pediatrics, his way of giving back.
I find my motivation kind of from what I went through. I'd like to help kids that they're suffering sort of the same thing. If there's any way to make it easier on them than it was on me, I'd like to help.
That was Caitlin LeBeau reporting. Today, Tackett still deals with some of the side effects of his brain surgery. He says he has suffered severe memory loss and doesn't remember most of his childhood. Even the days surrounding his surgery are a blur, but he says he is grateful to live his life seizure-free. The Kentucky football team will likely not be going bowling this year. The Cats ended the season 5-7 after blowing a 21-point lead Saturday to Louisville, who scored 31 unanswered. A day after the game, junior quarterback Patrick Tolles announced he is transferring. Tolles started the first 10 games this season and threw for more than 2,000 yards and 9 touchdowns, but he also had 14 interceptions. Tolles has not announced where he will be playing his final year.
Coach Rick Pitino says the recent sex scandal involving Louisville's basketball team might be hurting more than just the school's reputation. The Cardinals are not ranked, or whether they were not ranked as of this morning, despite being 5-0. In his recent post-game comments, Pitino said he thinks it's because of the sex scandal written about in a new book. The author, escort Katina Powell, alleges that a former U of L staffer paid her and others to have sex with basketball players and recruits.